Tax, and they are embracing contract farming. This farming model, which involves agricultural production being carried out on the basis of an agreement between the buyer and the farm producers, has enabled farmers not only access stable markets but also embrace good agricultural practices.
It is a good idea. Most people would think this is something that doesn't work, but for us it has worked over the years. We began small with 5,000 birds in 2012, moved up, upgrading the business and doing bigger houses, and currently we are doing 20,000 birds in a span of 5 weeks, that is 35 days. Anyone out there that wishes to do contract farming, please be encouraged. It may not look like it fetches a lot, but it is an assurance that you can do it over and over. And I would wish that we give it a try. Contract farming is the perfect thing, especially on the marketing of the products.
Contract farming has many agro-based advantages, and it's a fast-growing practice, but it has not lacked its fair share of challenges. One of the issues that has come up when interacting with farmers that are doing contract farming is the feeling that they are not involved in decision making. For instance, they don't have control of some of these prices that they get. How do we fix this?
The problem sometimes becomes, in terms of contract farming, and I keep going back to this, is lack of trust. Buyers feel that even though there's a contract, if a farmer gets paid 10 bob more, they'll go somewhere else. So they don't trust the farmers to a certain extent. Farmers feel that these buyers are not taking any of the risk, they're not doing anything, and they're not paying me enough. They're not paying me what I should get paid. So that lack of trust means that although in theory contract farming is great, it can have difficulties. So first of all, it's building the trust between the buyer and the farmer, and I think definitely co-creation, discussion points in terms of pricing, why the pricing is at a certain place. Now, think about it from a farmer's perspective. A farmer finds out that, you know, a buyer has bought this from me from 20 bob and then they're selling it at 200 bob. So they will think, I'm getting, you know, like this is just unfair. But
welcome to another exciting session today. I'm going to take a few minutes, about 5 minutes, to just go through some of the highlights from yesterday. I'm sure you're looking forward to another interesting conversation today about contract farming. Yesterday, we had a lineup of experts and speakers, government representation talking to us about looking at the different angles and aspects of contract farming. So we started off with a keynote speech from the CEO of KEPSA, and as you are aware, she really laid out what some of the opportunities are for agriculture and contract farming across the value chain, and speaking very passionately and about some of the prospects, but also some of the challenges in that value chain. And, you know, calling upon all stakeholders to do their part, you know, and also calling for policy and regulatory support for contract farming. And then we had a representation of the CS by Collins Marangu, who also talked about government's commitment and government's policy guidance and direction around farming in general, but also contract farming in particular. He spoke about the importance of contract farming as it relates to international trade and increases in FDI for this country, the contribution of farming generally and also contract farming to that. He talked about it as an engine of economic development and a means of improving livelihoods across the country and indeed across the African continent. He also cited the challenges farmers face, particularly due to lack of knowledge, the lack of mastery of modern techniques, lack of incentives to invest in proper inputs, etc. He talked about and urged us all towards harnessing the full potential of contract farming, being mindful about fair contracts, which are central to all the deals for the farmers, for the businesses, and everybody in the value chains. He also talked about the advantages that big companies have over farmers due to the economies of scale and also due to farmers not knowing their own legal rights, of course, calling for reforms in those areas. And finally, he acknowledged the potential that contract farming has in improving agricultural output in Africa, but also feeding the rest of the world. And indeed, Mr. Marangu set the tone for the conference. And thereafter, we had speaker after speaker, really echoing what he was saying. We had a keynote presentation by Lan Lee, an economist with the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, who set out the general basic concepts of contract farming and how it's applied, and talked about some of the models. And we had speaker after speaker unpacking for us what contract farming is, what the benefits of contract farming are, and the opportunities in terms of pricing, ensuring quality, etc. So indeed, the main echo was that we need partnerships in innovation, in farming, looking at what contract farming offers, the different opportunities for the farmers or producers, the opportunities including access to quality input seeds, enhance farmer income, and also allowing farmers to access both local and international markets. In the afternoon, we had a deep dive into some of the technology solutions. It was quite an exciting session, listening to some of the prospects and some of the ongoing technologies supporting farming, smart farming, digital platforms, some of the drone technologies that are supporting precision farming, etc., etc. We also heard from some of the companies that are offering, technologies around water systems, and many, and a lot of improved technologies, but also digital opportunities. How companies are beginning to expand the opportunities for contract farming, including to young people through smart farming. And then we wound up the day with a discussion with off-takers, listening to some of the, some of the dynamics in off-take agreements, what needs to be enforced, some of the gaps in those relationships, and what some of the challenges are in terms of ensuring good pricing, good um, honoring commitments and contracts for both farmers and also for both producers as well as for buyers. And we also listened to some of the biotechnological improvements, especially in soil farming, in soil technology, looking at soil quality. And I think we had a rallying call to everybody to invest in and to take up soil technology as a key backbone to farming. And we also listened to some of the audit issues that come up in contract farming. So we did have a very vibrant session yesterday. You'll agree with me. It was very encouraging to see a full and a very active participation from all of from the audience yesterday. It was a long day, but a very fruitful day indeed. And we're looking towards the same today. So ladies and gentlemen, gear up and let's get ready for today's session. Thank you very much.
Indeed, just a brief recap there. And for just to get the feel and flavor of it, we have the media team as well who prepared just a bit of a package just to give you that feel and flavor. If you could have it right now, please, media.
This is a timely conversation, I believe, as we look to solving pressing issues in African agriculture. Contract farming, when thoughtfully structured, presents a powerful solution. And therefore, the theme for the conference this year is Revitalizing African Agriculture, Time for Bold Action.
Business steps up to provide financing for the small scale farmers in contract farming, that we hope that government also can provide financial incentives and access to credit, so that we can support many more contract farmers by expanding access to affordable financing through agricultural banks and microfinance institutions. And all we need for these institutions is the right incentives so that they can give credit to these farmers.
From where I sit, this is one thing which can transform the farming community in this country. Because there's nothing bad, like you are planting something, you don't know you are taking it, you don't even know what is required. But I can assure you, things will never be the same again. We are moving forward together, and I can assure you get maximum support from our side.
Contract farming can be an innovative tool for public-private partnerships and used in institutional procurements. So public institution development agencies and organizations can also be part of contract farming. They can be third party to support and facilitate contract farming, but can also be the parties to the contract.
Now, I'm very happy to be here so that I can learn more and even to take your contact so that you people can help us. Their people are very hardworking. I came all the way from Moro to this conference to hear and even to learn more about it. Please, please, please come to our rescue.
For contract farming to be complete, it has to be a complete cycle whereby we are moving from producers to the market. So contract farming, mostly people are focused so much on the market side and they have not focused on the production side. I could be having the contracts to produce for someone, but how I do it in between might make me not meet the market demands of what I'm producing for this market, especially in terms of inputs. We can see how the prices are really fluctuating for inputs, then the resources, then the skills, the capacity, the finances. All that also affects the contract farming. What has also affected again in contract farming is the way people are not focusing on rotational crops for contract farming. Otherwise, I'll be forced to produce one value chain, I'll overproduce, and that will affect my swells. What does that mean? It will definitely affect my produce and the quality of the produce that I also take to my market. The biggest problem is we have the knowledge, we have land, we know what is required within our soil. But when it comes now to acting and distributing the organic products to the farmers, it becomes a major problem. One, we need to train the farmers what the soil needs, because we are feeding our soil or we are putting fertilizers in our soil. And the question is, what kind of fertilizer are you putting in the soil? Is it the correct fertilizer that your soil requires? Rather than to import the fertilizers, we start thinking on how we can make our own fertilizers, organic fertilizers within the country. And we have a lot of residues which are being left out within our markets. All of them can be turned into organic matters which will benefit the soil, which will feed the organisms within the soil and hold the water capacity of the soil, and we get food.
We have worked with several organizations that have tried implementing contract farming. It has its own share of challenges. I think through the discussions that we are having here today, we'll be able to come up with remarkable solutions to those challenges that are being experienced even by the private sectors, the public sector, and the farmers themselves through the contract farming.
I joined the conversation, and that is a hashtag ICCF 2024. And without much further ado, we just want to buckle down also to some of the tying that we needed to do today with the yesterday, the recaps as well. And I needed to remind you, just as you saw beautiful products there, we have our exhibition that we have exhibitors there with different products, different companies. So in the course of a day, the course of the forums, when you're taking your tea break or having, you are going to the Johns, that will be the place that you want to visit and just get a feel and flavor also what is being presented there as well. Ladies and gentlemen, before we embark on inviting, of course, our guest for the opening remarks, I want to call upon Juni Wangari from the Organic Fertilizer and Input Manufacturers Association of Kenya to just come and talk to us on that session that we were to have yesterday. We promised that we will begin with that very tersely in the morning to just give us also a sense of what Ofimac is doing, and especially when it comes to innovations and safe technology as well. Kindly put your hands together and make me welcome Juni Wangari from Ofimac.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Juni Wangari, and I'm the chair of Ofimac. Ofimac is Organic Fertilizer and Input Manufacturers Association of Kenya. It is an organization that was registered in March 2024, and our goal is to ensure that we get our voices heard as local manufacturers of organic fertilizers. I'm an organic fertilizer manufacturer. I started my business in 2021, but you wouldn't believe that there are people who have been doing this work for the last 20 years. And unfortunately, when I walked through the corridors of the licensing offices, the Ministry of Agriculture, the organic fertilizer they were aware of and were committed to promote is manure. But today we are here to say that we are not only promoting manure because that is what we're used to, but we've also raised the bar to ensure that we do have certified, locally produced organic products that can be used in our local market and even viable for export. So that is why Ofimac was created. And when we made that business case to the Ministry of Agriculture, they gave us the license to operate and to exist. And so we have a strong membership. And I would need a clicker, or I can't move to the next slide, please. Thank you. And so that is why we formed ourselves, to create awareness that we are manufacturing local organic inputs, local organic fertilizers and pesticide control products that will be environmentally friendly, but will also be good for the soils. And also to create the awareness that we as local manufacturers also need your support and the government support as well to grow this sector. And we couldn't have been formed at a better time than in the year when we were having the Africa Fertilizer Soil Health Summit. And it's interesting that Africa is talking about soil health. And here we are, in existence and, coming out of our woodwork, so to speak, and raising the bar and being able to stand in a platform like this to talk about organic fertilizers. Because in the farmer's mind, when you talk about fertilizers, it's all about the inorganic fertilizers, and they did have their place. But today, in the summit that took place in May in Nairobi, it was very clear that Africa has a challenge in soil health, and we need to address that in order to achieve food and nutrition security. So we have a membership of 18 members, local manufacturers. Now, this is the dilemma. We have an installed capacity of about 50,000 tons per year. But in 2023, we sold about 25,000 tons. In this year, we're expecting to go way above 35,000 tons. But that is still a very small percentage when you compare to the amount of fertilizers that we are consuming. But I do not know whether many of you have seen these brands and logos wherever you operate in Kenya, but these are local licensed manufacturers of organic fertilizers, soil conditioners, and pesticide control products that are environmentally friendly, locally produced, and they're available across the county. We are obviously located in the areas where our feedstock comes from, and our feedstock comes from agricultural waste and residue. You would want to ask, where does this come from? Yes, every farmer, we have a lot of NGOs that are teaching farmers how to make their own, organic compost, to process their manure, and that's all good. But the truth of the matter is, as we increase food production and value add, there are processes that are producing waste. And unfortunately, 5-10 years ago, what we used to do is bury it somewhere, which is still happening, by the way, or burn it. And that is still happening. But we have come into place now to see that we can actually add value to this material, and it can be recycled back into the ecosystem. So this is where you'll find many of us. And so I believe these are also the food baskets regions of Kenya. And so you'll be able to get one or two suppliers from your locality. Why is this important? Because in the Fertilizer Soil Health Summit that was held in May, the status of Kenya's soils, and by extension, Africa, were also shared widely, across many organizations. There were a lot of side events in the main discussions. African states have realized that they cannot be food secure if they don't address soil health. And that is also a challenge in Kenya. And I thought I would share some statistics. Maybe many of you may have them already, but there's also research that has been taking place in Kenya to establish what is the status of our soils, because that is where life begins, really, as far as food is concerned. And so there is actually referenced data from CALRO, our research institution that has been mandated to do research in Kenya, and very interesting findings about the status of Kenyan soils. And I would want us to share in these status, because these samples were taken probably maybe from your farms or your neighbors, so they affect us all. Now, the agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy brief that was shared, I think it was in 2023, that is the pillar that the Kenya government today is using to drive the bottom up agenda for Kenya. And agriculture is a key pillar of that strategy. And what they have established is that we have about 143 million acres of land in Kenya. Research that has been going on in Karo shows us that 5% of our land in Kenya is strongly acidic. Most of the crops, as you know, your professional farmers, most of the crops. Obviously, there are those crops that would require acidic soils or highly alkaline, but most of our food crops would be operating around 6.5 to 7.5 pH. But those are the statistics that we have there. 15% of Kenya's land mass is considered agricultural. So again, we don't have that much land. I think somebody mentioned that in their presentation yesterday. So we have 18 million of those acres under agriculture, and they are mostly driven by small scale. So in a nutshell, what we're trying to say is about 40% of our arable land is strongly acidic. What does that mean? You will put as much fertilizer as you want to, but it will not give you the returns that you are expecting. Next is, what does that mean in terms of the nutrients that are available in the soils? Acidic soils will lock in the nutrients in the soil, so they'll not be available for the plants. One of the macronutrients that you require is phosphorus. And you can see even with the map that has been indicated there, if 16% of our soils are deficient of phosphorus, then what does that mean? We can't grow our crops. 22 million acres. That is even more than the 18 million that is in agricultural land. So what are we planting our crops in? And so really, so that's something to ponder. And then one more ingredient, carbon. 97% of our land is carbon deficient. 97% of our land. For us to be able to produce healthy crops, we need 5% and above of organic carbon. So again, that is one of the key elements that we need in our soils. Meanwhile, we are consuming over 800,000 tons of inorganic fertilizers, or rather importing. And Kenya is estimated to be consuming 600,000 on average every year. And so we are increasingly using, mineral or inorganic fertilizers in our soils, but we are also not adding organic matter and all the good things that we need to sustain soil health. I do have just a few slides left, if you allow me. So allow me to give you some research that is ongoing to really let you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And the light at the end of the tunnel is that research has been conducted over a period of time to demonstrate that how can we correct our soils. And the conclusion of the research findings from CalRO has indicated that combining your mineral inorganic fertilizer with your organic input is very beneficial for your soils. And with time, as you continue using these two products together, then you will bring your soil to a level of fertility whereby it's able to sustain food production. And with time, this research even showed that consistently using the organic exclusively after that transition is what is going to give you the best results. And I can see there's a converted gentleman in the audience right there. And so we as organic fertilizer manufacturers have even tested this in the farms with various products that we are now producing. Because yes, remember, our farmers, you involved here, have been using manure for the longest time, but the status of our soils remain strongly acidic. Why? It's because we are not using enough. We visit farmers every day and they tell us, oh, I applied a truck of manure last year. And I'm like, okay, and what about this year? Now it's okay. And you're thinking, okay, how okay is that? We need to replenish these good things that are in our soil so that the soils can remain alive. And so these are some of the examples that we can give and share in terms of how combining organic and inorganic farm inputs, manure, commercial products that are in the market will improve the productivity of your farm as a contract farmer. So I think I also mentioned about the objectives of why we exist, and I will not belabor that. But one of the things that came out from the Africa Soil Health Summit is that we cannot run away from this problem. So we need to act with urgency. And so my request amongst the farmers who are here, because you would be the lead farmers, if for lack of a better word, in terms of helping the other farmers around your locations to embrace this new direction, because it's a burning platform at the government level. Our task here is to see how we can bring that sense of urgency to the farmer on the ground. And so because we are aligned to ensuring that we achieve food security and nutrition security in line with the beta agenda, we believe that we can do this together. So let me just get into one slide here. That really speaks to what we need to do moving forward. Something very practical. We need to feed the soil and we need to feed the plant. And so that is the task that I would want you to take from here, or the challenge I would want you to take from this meeting, so that you can start seeing the transition of your soils. And please join us. We have a stand at the exhibition center where you'll be able to see many of our certified products. And the one slide I want to leave you with is this. As a contract farmer, these are the 4 principles that we need to embrace. And I know in our practices, we have, picked up all the good things that we need to do in order to drive contract farming, because we need to produce on time and in time. However, we need to make sure that we bring these two elements together, inorganic and organic, so that we can sustain that medium that you're using. So our recommendations when you live here is to see how you can start putting in consistently, not once in 3 years or once in 2 years or once a year, consistently starting to add organic matter into your soils. And now, because we have commercially available fertilizers, is to see how you can actually mix. I'm actually just one more minute. Is actually to see how you can mix 1 bag with 2 bags of inorganic fertilizer, so that you can start that journey and find yourself transitioning to that mark that I've put there on the slide. So I hope with that, please join us in our stand, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
All right, you realize you need to inch closer and closer and closer to bear the pressure on them so that we can try and keep time as well. Thank you very much. A round of applause again for Junie on cell health principles, and of course also corporate as well. Just in the same vein, they speak about soil health. You can visit also their stall in the exhibition arena there just behind us. Let's move on swiftly. And right now, I want to welcome on stage Dr. George Kimiri Karanja, who is the National Director, to come and just give opening remarks this morning to set the tone for the day, and then we continue swiftly. Put your hands together as he comes to the podium. Thank you, sir. How are you?
Welcome. Good morning. As you have heard, I'm George Kimiri Karanja from Kenya National Chamber and Commerce, and I'm here on behalf of our Chamber President, Dr. Eric Ruto, who could not make it, and he sent me to represent him, and I'm glad to lead the opening remarks that he sent me with. You know, when you are sent, you are not supposed to add or subtract. But all the said, so good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, partners, and participants. On behalf of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, it is an honor to deliver the opening remarks for inaugural international conference on contract farming. Allow me to begin by acknowledging the remarkable efforts of Sunflower Events in organizing this crucial conference, a gathering focused on transforming the landscape of African agriculture under the theme Revitalizing African Agriculture, Time for Bold Action. Contract farming is a cornerstone for driving sustainable agricultural growth, particularly in Africa, where a vast potential remains untapped. It is a powerful model that aligns farmers and buyers, fostering mutual benefits through secure, predictable markets and ensuring quality standards and production consistency. Contract farming, facilitates vital access to finance, technical expertise, and support systems, strengthening value claims from farms to markets. At Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, we are deeply committed to advancing contract farming by working closely with our county chapters. As you know, we have 47, we are present in 47 counties where we have representation, and we are always constantly in touch with the farmers and businessmen. And I believe contract farming is a business. So these local engagements allow us to address specific agricultural challenges, provide support tailored to regional needs, and strengthen the ties between farmers, buyers, and other key stakeholders. So as we convene today, we bring together insights, expertise, and innovations that will drive meaningful action in contract farming. a model that holds significant promise for farmers, investors, and the agriculture sector as a whole. This conference will foster invaluable discussion on models, best practices, and policies that can engage and reshape agriculture across the continent and elevate food security. So as we wind up, once again, thank all who have joined us, and especially the Sunflower event for the dedicated making this conference a reality. We look forward to productive sessions and impactful exchange that will shape the future of agriculture in Africa. If I can say briefly about Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, you know that it is a body that represents businesses, and agriculture is one of the major components of businesses. And we are more involved with advocacy. That is, we advocate for the rights of the farmer businesses, farmers, and networking, and trade missions. So this is a very important forum for us. And more so for me, I happen to represent Central Region, that is Central Kenya. And I can see from my last speaker, most of the organic farmers are from that region. And most of them are engaged in farming. So this is I'm excited to be here to see this contract farming. We would want more of it to come to these regions so that our farmers can actually benefit and be able to be productive, more productive. So thank you so much and enjoy your engagements.
Good. A round of applause for him, please. And we say that, you know, it takes a whole orchestra to play a symphony. You cannot whistle a symphony. And Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry is one of key strategic partners as well, alongside many, as you can see from the screens there. So it makes life a bit more easy. Inch by inch, life is a cinch. Yard by yard, they say life is hard, but we come together, every effort becomes easier, the burden becomes easier as well. And also one of our strategic also key partner is government. And we want right now to also give a handy opportunity to our guest. This is Mr. Leonard Kubok, who's the Deputy Director, Crop Resource Management from the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Kindly put your hands together and make me welcome Mr. Leonard Kubok to come on the podium as well to give us a keynote address on behalf of the Principal Secretary, State Department of Agriculture. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jambo. Kindly shake the hand of your neighbor and greet him or her on my behalf and on behalf of the PS. Mwambie jambo. Karibu. Yeah, thank you so much. If in some cultures that's not the best way to say hi, you'd rather bow, isn't it? From Southeast Asia, so you can have a mix if you have people from those countries. Thank you so much. As you have heard, my name is Kubok. I'm a deputy director. There's a division known as a Crop Resources Management division in the State Department for Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. I'm here on behalf of our PS who received your invitation and was more than willing to attend and make a keynote address. But because of exigencies of work, he's not available, and he sent me to read or to make remarks on his behalf and the special greetings that you have just exchanged between yourselves. Personally, I'm glad to be among peers and the community of practice with individuals who matter on matters food security, food and nutrition security through farming and many other services that you offer to support value chain actors, right from the first node to the last node. I've been a practitioner professionally for close to 32 years. And I'm glad that majority of the people seated in this conference hall, majority of them may have started their professional life way after. And that means those are positive signs and signals that generally there are younger people interested in matters contract farming. Unfortunately, the older ones who are more crucial in terms of production are not here. But suffice is to say that this being an inaugural, the first ever international conference on contract farming, we'll come to know it better. The others will also come to know it better during the second one, hopefully next year. And we have a diverse representation of all ages. I've noted from the program that there's a panel discussion on making it cool, targeting the youth. I wish that you take note of the proceedings and they'll form part of the resolutions of this conference. And they kindly share with us the output or the outcomes with the State Department. We shall be more than willing to go through the resolutions or the call to action and see where we can support. Now, our main mandate in Kenya is food and nutrition security, besides anything else. That is our number one purpose. We wake up and come to the office and go to the field to ensure that we are 100% food and nutrition secure. And as we speak, we are not yet there. And when you talk of this mandate, it's not just about production. There are many other aspects that define food and nutrition security. Now, to this extent, I would just want to probably inform those who may not be aware. We still have a very serious challenge on matters food and nutrition security, especially regarding certain categories or members of our community. What comes to my mind is the young ones below 5 years. Those who have an interest in child nutrition or nutrition generally, and you look at information regarding child food poverty in Kenya, the situation is very dire. In certain parts of this country to the north, and more surprisingly, even within the urban areas of our cities and major towns, we are faced with serious challenges of child food poverty and food that is not, how do you call it? It is not healthy. Yeah, that's the right term. Unhealthy foods. You walk in the vibandas, in the streets, people are consuming unhealthy foods. Unhealthy in the sense that they are highly refined, we are having issues with the way they are made, and we think things are right. We also have a paradox that child food poverty and unhealthy diets cuts across all levels of incomes, those with low income, medium, and even high. So we really need to endeavor to put things straight. We still have lots of food that goes to waste. We have high levels of post-harvest losses. And if contract farming is a magical bullet that will address these and many other concerns in food and nutrition security that I have not touched, and all of you know, then why not? So urging that as we continue discussing and having this discourse, we will think even beyond just contract farming, because it may address a lot of these issues that we are seeing in terms of food and nutrition security. Now, I'll go through the official remarks for the keynote address by the PS, but along the way, because your request for the PS to make these attendance was very specific on the role of the government, its crucial role in terms of legal frameworks and institutional mechanisms for enhancing contract farming efficiency. Let me pause and ask, do you think the government has any role at all in enhancing efficiency in contract farming? Yes or no? Or perhaps, or maybe, I had a resounding yes. There was a no, there was no no. So government has a crucial role. We all agree. So before I venture into probably 6 non-exhaustive aspects that indicate the significance of the government in making contract farming efficient, let me just say that definitely the government has a very crucial role in establishing and maintaining legal frameworks and institutional mechanisms that enhance or ensure efficiency and fairness. Because we may be efficient, but unfair, isn't it? So those are critical: efficiency and fairness in contract farming, so that both contracting parties benefit equitably. You all know the benefits of contract farming. I will not allude to all of them. They may have been discussed yesterday. But everything done, we want to ensure reliability, quality supply, and trust. Those are the overriding factors. On matters efficiency, it depends on a number of things, but squarely depends heavily on the supportive role that the government plays, creating conducive environment or environments that are friendly, environments that of course are regulatory, but not over-regulatory, putting in place institutional environment that it is so well placed to provide. Because of the interest of time, because we're already a bit late, I will be very brief in mentioning them. I'll just point them out. Of course, government has the biggest role in ensuring that we have very clear legal frameworks. And they don't operate independently. They must work with all stakeholders or interested parties, especially when it comes to contract enforcement. Yes, contracting may be between 2 independent parties, the producer and the buyer, but we have a role in enacting laws that enforce these contracts, together with all of us in this room. Unfortunately, sometimes enforcement of these contracts or laws is unreliable for one reason or the other. I may leave that to be part and parcel of your discussion. Why? And in the event of that unreliability, trust is lost. Food for thought to all of us. In some cases, in terms of this first point, we come into standardized contracts. You all know this. Because we must provide guidelines. You may have independently drawn your contracts, but it is good that the government ensures that we have standardized contracts. But above all, transparency in pricing. We must have a fair deal to both parties. Second point is that we do regulation and oversight. Besides putting in place clear legal frameworks, we do regulation and oversight. We carry out monitoring and auditing, protecting the rights of both parties, and ensuring certification standards are in place and enforced. Third, government plays, and I want to believe that you'll agree with this particular point, on matters dispute resolution. We assist heavily in ensuring that there are mechanisms for dispute resolution, whether they are legal or alternative to legal mechanisms. And in most cases, we would not want to enforce the legal aspects. We would want to go into mediation. We would want to have local dispute resolution mechanisms or bodies, right where the actual farming is being done, so that you don't waste time moving from one point or the other. Fourth, and of major significance too, is education, capacity building. I want to believe that most of you have been involved with government on matters educating farmers and buyers. Is that so? Is that the case? Yes. This is a significant role. And for us, as a ministry, the Constitution provides, this is one of our major mandates. Of course, among the three mandates of the ministry, policy, technical advice, and capacity building, the Constitution bestows those mandates to the national government. And therefore, we facilitate farmer education, buyer education, technical support, financial literacy and management, in collaboration, of course, with all of us in this room. Fourth or fifth, government plays a very crucial role in putting in place measures or an environment that facilitates access to finance and insurance. Of course, we may be having challenges in terms of undertaking this particular role, but definitely government assists in a huge way in credit access and promoting crop insurance. The sixth and last point, of course, I said it is not exhaustive because I know there may be other roles that the government is doing that can be discussed in this conference, is promotion of inclusive policies and collaboration. In Swahili, we say, kucha moja, akiwi chawa. Now, my friends from outside Kenya, what it means, I don't know. Do you have an animal called lice? I had this, there are people from France. What is from France? You know lice? Lice. It's a small creature. Is it a pest? Those who were brought up those days, you know what I'm talking about, eh? The most traditional way of killing it for those people who are hygienic and exposed to poor ways of taking care of their body are infested by lice, isn't it? And for you to kill it, you must have two fingers together. So it's a saying among us that for you to kill a louse, you must put your fingers together. That means we need to collaborate. I'm using it as a figurative speech. You need to collaborate in matters of inclusive policies and partnership. And this translates to matters of inclusive contracting because we want everybody to be involved for openness and equitable distribution of benefits from contract farming. And through this, we have a law on PPPs, public-private partnerships, which we promote so that we put in place even infrastructure that may not be available, may not be put up by our hardworking growers. But buyers can assist through PPPs to collaborate. So I would want to say that one may not be a solution, or one role is not enough. We may need to mix all these roles so that we make contract farming fair, efficient, beneficial for all parties involved, and create stability, which will attract more investment in the farming ecosystem in this country. So allow me to stop there in terms of the specific topic that the PS was invited to talk about. But allow me just to invite every conference participant this way. The PS says that he has been honored by this gathering, it being the first international conference on contract farming in Africa. He appreciates the effort by the organizers, Madam, and the conference directors and everybody else. It has generated a lot of interest. You could see from social media and any other media. Already they're in the papers today. And it is a good thing. Financial penetration in Kenya is below 4% for services. 4%. And our farmers have decided to go to non-conventional mechanisms to support farming, often with very high interest rates. And I want to believe that this is one of the ways we can enhance farmers' ability to source for resources so that we do farming properly as a business. He notes that the conference theme is revitalizing African agriculture, time for bold action, not just for time for action, time for bold action. And this is very well aligned to our government aspirations of transforming and growing agriculture in Kenya. All of us know the role of agriculture in Kenya and generally in the continent of Africa in terms of giving us food, employment, and resources for agro-industrialization. Of course, for us to realize these aspirations as a government and as a people of Kenya, contract farming has a major role because we will have growth both by the buyers, the growers, and the country at large. We have seen increasing use of contract farming in this country in the recent past, and we would want to have more of this. We need to accelerate adoption of contract farming, and we need to do whatever it takes to ensure that this is done. Let us leverage on aspects like technology. And above all, we don't need just contract farming as a business arrangement. It is a partnership. As we move forward, it is important that all of us support and refine contract farming for our farmers out there in the farms to understand it better, for us to reap full benefit. In conclusion, our ministry is excited to be part of this conference in one way or the other, and it is his hope that this event will present innovative ideas that can propel and transform the agricultural landscape in this country. And he looks forward to the conference outcomes. For those guests who are from out of Kenya, this is your message. Now, for those guests in this conference who are from out of Kenya, Nairobi is a perfect venue for those seeking a unique balance between the business that brought you here and a brush with nature. He hopes that you'll find time to experience the warmth and the hospitality of our people and the beauty of our surroundings, including the Nairobi National Park that is just around the corner, which is the only national park within the environments of a city in the world. As with the rich culture and tradition of Kenyans, we say Karibuni Sana Kenya. And it is now my pleasure to wish all of you well in the remainder of this conference and that you will conclude successfully. Asanteni sana, thank you, and may God bless you.
A round of applause again for Mr. Leonard Kubok, Deputy Director, Crop Resource Management. Thank you for those sentiments. And it bears resonance with what was being raised yesterday here, a lot of issues that you've talked about. And one of the delegates also expressed the displeasure that government is not represented here. And if they are, they stick around for a while, then they sneak out. They need to be in the forums for, from the go-getting until the end, so that some of these issues, silent issues that are raised, you can actually pick them up and go and implement them, because you are the sole partner that creates the conducive environment for enabling, all these actions and business to operate, from policy, from, of course, regulations as well. It is the government at the end of the day. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate you electing to be with us today this morning. Right, we want to continue with the program right now and go to our session today. And this is critically looking at the role of intermediaries in contract farming. And we'll have a panel discussion later. But just to begin and set the tone for that particular session, I want to welcome here on the podium Jen Musindi. Jen Musindi, she's the chair of ASNET Policy and Advocacy Committee, that is the Agriculture Sector Network, ASNET. She's here coming. Put your hands together and make me welcome her to the podium. Briefly, just set the tone for us and also take it away in the shortest time possible. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just give me a minute. Okay, welcome to ASNET presentation. ASNET is the Agriculture Sector Network. And as you can see, I chair a technical committee. Technical people work from behind the scenes, so once in a while we are thrust to the front. So I will try my best to keep your time without saying too much. So ASNET, who we are the Agriculture Sector Board of KEPSA, Kenya Private Sector Alliance. We were formed as a partnership between KEPSA, KNCCI, who are here, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, SDG partnership from the United Nations, with support from Business Advocacy Fund, Elgon Kenya, and other like-minded businesses. The reason we came together is because there were many issues within agriculture. We were very fragmented, and everybody was going somewhere to complain about something in agriculture. So we needed to have one voice for this, to channel these complaints, so that we can sort them out comprehensively without everybody, taking different things to different people. So we a membership association. We don't have members, individual members, except in my committee, which is the technical advisory. Everybody else must belong to a BMO, a business membership organization. Our key objectives is to consolidate and coordinate fragmented agriculture private sector actors. At the time, government was coming together with one voice, and we needed as private sector to also come up with one voice. So we mainstream agriculture-related policy, legal, regulatory institution aspects for a competitive and enabling business environment. And since our umbrella body is KEPSA, our main goal is the ease of doing business. To facilitate trade and investment, assist in the development of agriculture value chains, and inclusivity. Inclusivity, this means including women and youth. Because most of our food comes from smallholder farmers, and these smallholder farmers, 70% of them, I'm sure, are women and youth. If we don't consider their input, then really we will be moving 2 steps forward and 4 steps back. So our membership, Seed Trade Association of Kenya STAC, Cereal Growers, Cereal Millers, East African Grain Council, all of them are here, National Potato Council, Tea Growers Association, Kenya Coffee Producers, among others. So you have to be a member of one of these bodies, and through those bodies, then you become a member of ASNET. We have corporate membership, we have MSMEs as businesses. We recently launched an academia forum. We realized that without including academia in private sector efforts, we really are not helping ourselves, because the people coming to work for us come from the academic institutions. If we don't work together with academia, we get what we have now. There's a disconnect between the students coming out of the colleges and the people we need to work in the industry. So we have to work together to come to an agreement of the people that we want to come to us. In the past, what had been happening is that students come from the university and take 1 year of, how do I say it, attachment, so that they reacclimatize into private sector requirements. But at the moment, private sector no longer has that luxury or that financial ability to retrain students. So they need to come ready from the colleges. And that is a gap now, because we are not employing too many youth. We are retaining the old people because we are used to them and they know our system. You don't have time to train people. There's a whole gap. So then finance, we have commercial banks, Apex farmer bodies, KENAF is our member. We have county boards, which are in the formative stages. We have 4 county boards at the moment. And as I said, we have a forum for academia. How we work, we have an MOU with Ministry of Agriculture. We hold meetings with Ministry of Agriculture. This meeting every month is chaired jointly by the chair of ASNET and the CS for Agriculture. We actually had one yesterday where we discuss emerging issues, and through that forum, it helps solve a lot of issues that otherwise would remain unsolved for a while. And we're in support of the ASTGS, as the previous presenter mentioned. We are a member of the ATO, the Agriculture Transformation Office, which then their work is to make sure the SDGs works. We are a member of the CAPEF, which is a steering committee that implements CADAP, the African Development Program for agriculture. We are a member of the Intergovernmental Forum for Agriculture, which brings together county and national government. Of course, we have mentioned the monthly dialogue with Ministry of Agriculture. We are a member of National TBT, which is Trade Barriers Committee, SPS Committee, National Horticulture Task Force, Horticulture Competency Authority, National Codex Committee, among others. Anything nationally that would make a difference to agriculture, we have input to it. KEPSA ASNET have quarterly meetings with the Council of Governors, Parliament, both houses, ministerial and presidential roundtables. Where we can't sort out the problem with the ministry, then we escalate it to whoever needs to listen to us, and we sort out the problem together. So how we are formed, I don't know if this is clear to everybody. We have a board of trustees at the top, which is made up of captains of industry, people who've been in the agriculture business for 20, 30 years or more, who then advise a board of directors. We have board committees. The board of directors chair is Bimal Kantaria, who we all know from Elgon, Kenya. Then under the board of directors, we have technical advisory, which I chair. And this is the think tank basically of the other boards. We have county boards, we have a youth forum, we have council committees. Council committees are made up of the CEOs of most agriculture SMEs. Then under that arrangement, we have a secretariat that is chaired by a general manager, Agatha Thuo, who's not here today. And under Agatha, we have 5 people who work under her that mirrors the technical advisory committees. So why are we here today to support this conversation? Contract farming has been identified by the SDGs as one of the pathways that can improve smallholder incomes and increase agricultural input, which is flagship 1 and 2. It's a common practice in which farmers and buyers agree to specific terms. I'll not belabor that because I'm sure you've heard about it. But some of the challenges come from the fact that it must be between legal entities. And yet, most rural farmers are grouped into self-help groups, which are not legal entities. So then getting a contract between these two is a problem. It works best where there's trust and communication. Trust in some of our establishments is wanting, because where you get a company that has employees that are trying to do individual businesses on their own behalf at the expense of the companies, and you have farmers who are trying to also do individual business at the expense of the whatever formation they have, then trust is lost. So then contract farming cannot work. Where buyers have supply obligations, you see, a buyer has to know what they require so that he can issue contracts. If he doesn't have that agreement with their buyer, then it is very difficult for him to issue contracts, because there's an obligation to receive this product. And if he can't guarantee that, then that will not work. Compliance to standards is necessary, so it's usually laid out in the contract. Now, if the farmers don't understand what these standards are, then there'll be a problem with that contract. Provision of inputs, as previously noted, that some companies, because of the challenges we have in farming, they will decide to provide inputs and credit to farmers. There is a necessity to now have a contract with this farmer so that you recoup your investment. Some of the times, because of price problems and seasonality of product, it is easier to sell to a broker who had nothing to do with the input provision, and therefore the farmer then shortchanges the person who gave them the inputs and the technical advice. So there's also that gap. Good contract management, a company can gain efficiency. You can be sure of what you're doing, and contract farming, land is diminishing. We can't do any more with what we are doing now. So if you can amalgamate land through contract farming, groups of farmers, then it is easier for you to plan how you will supply your market. I'm going fast because I have been told, yes, 1 minute. So legal frameworks are required to address these challenges. One, we need to enhance participation of women and youth, and this can only come from policy direction from government. We know that women and youth in most societies do not own the resources. It is somebody else who does. We call for trainings and it is a man who turns up, but the person to implement is mama and her children. There has to be a way to mitigate that. Address legal status requirements for farmer groups. If they're registered as self-help groups, can we convert them into a legal entity? Approve access to irrigation solutions, because part of the problem is seasonality of product. So if you want a contract to be efficient, there has to be a way there is year-round production. So then policies addressing irrigation, seed availability need to be improved. Leadership quality in the groups, integrity within that group, because sometimes you get leadership in the groups that are more individualistic than for the group benefit. The better the legal framework, we can now go to court together or have alternative methods to address our disputes. Continuous awareness creation, because the farmers need to understand the importance of and the requirements of contract farming, which is a gap, a huge gap, I must say. And then requirements for company staff to operate with integrity. I don't know how we can address this, because that's an individual choice. And these are the people we have. So maybe more punitive measures to ensure that contracts are respected. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
How do you change?
Thank you, Joshua. A round of applause again for her. Jen Musindi, the chair of ASNET. She's set the tone for this particular moment of a panel discussion, and I will quickly just go right into it as I call up the panelists so that we can try and save on time as well. I want to call upon Divina Musota, Head of Monitoring, Evaluation, Accountability and Learning, Kenya National Farmers Federation, KENAF, to come to the podium, followed by Executive Director, Women Farmers Association of Kenya, WOFAC. This is I don't have your name here, but you'll tell us your name, right? We have also Evelyn Lusenaka, Director, Stewardship, Africa Middle East, CropLife Africa Middle East. Kindly be also on the podium. Eva Mudiri, Managing Director, Eva's Coffee Kenya. Please, you can join us as well. We have Nancy Gitonga, Chief Executive Officer, African Women's Entrepreneurship Program, AWEP Kenya chapter. We have also our moderator who will be taking us through this session. This is Ivo Deta, Director, Multitrack Policy Consultants Limited. A round of applause for all of them as they're here. And of course, also we'll have you participating by way of engaging and asking questions that will be facilitated by Eve. Over to you.
Yes. Good morning once again. Welcome to our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see we have a power-packed panel here of distinguished ladies, intermediaries in contract farming. They have been introduced, so I won't get into that. But I think if you're a farmer in the room, you'll probably identify yourself with one of the ladies up front, because these ladies are leaders in associations that are working with farmers across the country. And we are going to dive deep into interrogating how these intermediary organizations are helping farmers to navigate, not just farmers, but both producers and buyers to navigate, the complex landscape of contract farming. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. Please have your questions ready. We want to hear from them, and also just to applaud the good work that they are doing. So ladies, welcome. We are happy to have you this morning. Thank you for honoring our invitation to have this conversation with us. We're going to I think I'll give you each maybe a minute to just describe to us, what your organization is, and what role you play, particularly in ensuring in transparency and trust in contract farming.
So let's start with from here, Ms. Gitonga. Let's start with you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm humbled to be here. My name is Nancy Gitonga. We have very many hats. I am the CEO of African Women's Entrepreneurship Program. We are working with over 20,000 women. Most of them are farmers. I'm also the chairperson of East Africa Women in Business Platform. Our offices are based in Arusha, Tanzania. We are working in the 8 partner states of East Africa community. The other thing that I do, or the other role I play, I am the president and the founder of Zamora Consulting. We are working in Africa to make sure that there is trade facilitation using the AFCFTA. I'm a farmer. I'm from Embu County. I'm farming dragon fruits. I'm also farming plantains. I'm humbled to be here. I'm connecting fully with every farmer, every policymaker in this place. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Divina Mosota. I know in the program it's indicated Musota, but Mosota. I work for the Kenya National Farmers Federation as the head of monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning. Okay, I'll talk about the Kenya National Farmers Federation. It's an apex farmers organization in Kenya. It's at national level, but then works across all the 45 counties, Nairobi and Mombasa excluded, because ideally we have fewer farmers from Nairobi and Mombasa. So how our structure works is we start from the grassroots, that's the ward level, sub-county level, and county level, then the national level. Much of the work definitely for the farmers is done at the grassroots level, that is the ward, sub-county, and the county. And our membership stretches right from the individual membership, farmer groups, cooperatives, and what we call county farmers associations. These are associations that are formed at the county level by the farmers from the ward, sub-county, and then the county, they form a county farmers association. If we are, for instance, speaking about Machakos, then we have Machakos County Farmers Association. So all those categories are categories of our membership. Yes, we do support farmers in contract farming, as we will discuss next. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Eva Mufuri. I am the MD of Eva's Coffee. I'm a big champion for women in the coffee space. In the village, I'm the patron of Kadera Women in Coffee. I come from a village called Kadera, east of Mount Kenya. On Friday, CNN is coming to cover them because they've successfully raked in more than 20 million shillings every month in coffee from zero. On the national platform, I am the former chair of the International Alliance of Women in Coffee in Kenya. On the global platform, I'm also a member of the International Women's Coffee Alliance. I also represent African women's voices at the International Coffee Organization in London. So when it comes to women and the coffee space, let us talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you for the organizers for inviting us and inviting me. My name is Daphne Mushai. I am the founder and the current executive director of the Women Farmers Association of Kenya. And I also sit in the National Gender and Women Economic Empowerment Technical Working Group. I also am a board member of the Kenya Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services. I will dive to say what we do as an organization. And we came together in the space that the farming fraternity in Kenya the farms are held by men. And of course, they make the big decisions at the farm level. When it comes to training and exposure like this one, mostly when the considerations are done, it's men who are invited, men who get the information. But when you go down to the farming community, when you go to the farms themselves, you meet the women. And the information that is crucial to the farming is lacking at the contact level where the farming is being done. So on those bases, it was important to empower the woman to make decision at whichever level of the value chain that they are working on. We are organized as groups. Our memberships spans from the groups. Then they make the county boards or the chapters where we have a structure that for any information, we don't necessarily have to move from the national office to the farmer, but there's a structure, and the structure and the boards meet every month, so that if there is anything new, like the way forward will be discussed and agreed today, be sure that next month they'll all get the information. On the space of contract farming, which is the big issue that has brought us together.
Go ahead.
The main part that we pray is capacity building for farmers to understand that for them to access a market, an organized market, they also have to approach it in an organized way.
Mhm.
And they not necessarily have to farm in one farm, but each individual will do their bit, and then they meet the standards set by the buyer. So maybe as we continue, we'll give more of what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thanks for the introductions, ladies. Now let's shift to what we've been hearing since yesterday, and this is about transparency and trust. That contract farming boils down to holding transparency and trust. As associations, you have memberships, and I'm sure you support your members to navigate, contracts. Well, maybe not navigate contracts, but your guidance and dealing with contract farming and offtake agreements. How do you support them in any way? Maybe we could hear from Ms. Gitonga. Do you support, or if not, then how could this be enforced? How could you support trust and transparency among your memberships?
Thank you very much. Contract farming, to begin with, from where I'm seated and the kind of the constituents that I lead, who are the women in business, it's a great idea. Should be encouraged, should be supported. Why do I say this? We women, we only own 1% of the land. That means we can do too little, and I'm glad my sister here definitely has been able to help us to understand. There's too little that we can do as standalones. Really, what can you do with a quarter an acre of a farm or even less? But you see, if there's someone, an investor, who is coming to consolidate and bring us together and say, you guys do this for me, and I will pay you. I'll give you inputs. I'll help you to understand how to do it. Then I think it's a fantastic thing. Now, the issue of trust. Mistrust comes in when there is doubt, when I don't understand what I'm putting myself into. So build the capacity of the people you want as an investor, the people you really want to work for you. Please build their capacities first. Let them be able to understand this is what I'm bringing on the table. Let them ask questions. Teach them and help them to go through those contracts. Remove any doubt. And then you are going to find that what you have is a constituents, because I work with constituents myself, women. Then when you build the trusts of the people, the women and men and the youth who you want to get into contract with, they will rally behind you they will sing your song because they understand your vision and mission, what you are bringing to the table. They will understand the benefit. So that is key number one. Please teach them. Don't just come and assume they know they don't know. So I think that element is very important. Number two, please always follow regulations, laws to the letter. If you have gotten into a contract and said, this is how we are going to do this agreement, let it please be honored. And when you practically do that, people are not animals. This is about social being. People identify with you as a truthful man or a truthful woman. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you've echoed what was raised by Daphne about capacity building, and already WOFAC is doing that. Trust building also starts with understanding, knowledge, and information about what am I getting into. I think that's a fundamental thing to bear in mind. Kenneth, what's your experience?
Yeah, I wanted to add on what my sisters just indicated, that truly the first step is capacity building. For us, we are seated here, we really understand what contract farming is, but we are going back to the grassroots where the farmer is. The farmer wants a quarter acre of land. Do they understand what contract farming is, what they are getting themselves into? So as an organization, that is where we start from, starting to ensure that the farmer understands what is contract farming. And as an organization, we have what we call KENAF Knowledge Series. It's a series that has 20 training areas where we capacity build our farmers. And one of the key areas is contract farming, for them to understand what is it. Are they going to benefit? Because as this conference goes on, by the end of the day, our key question should be, what does the farmer get to gain? What does the buyer get to gain? Are the lives of the farmers changing? So first is for them to understand why they're entering into a contract. The second one is, what we do is ensuring that the contract is as simple as possible. Because anything that looks complicated, definitely understanding and also, trying to understand becomes difficult. So contracts should be as simple as possible. Finally, we do always give a feedback. We have a feedback mechanism. We use the USSD code to ensure that farmers give feedback. Maybe they're not getting the rights that are in the contract, or even the buyers are not getting their rights. So both scenarios, you have the farmers, you have the buyers, and the contract is not being met. And we need to have a feedback mechanism with open communication, where we get to know what is not going right and what is going right and what is not going right. And we eventually support in dispute resolution. This enables the farmer to understand and see a lot of transparency and trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now shifting to you, Eva, you work a lot with international buyers in the coffee value chain. And yesterday you heard that there's also the trust levels in international markets. Farmers do not trust the buyers. How do you support that? What can be done?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Contract farming is business. The language of business is contracts and contracts and contracts. Trust is important, but more important is what is the business deliverable. So for us, when we get our buyers, we sit them around a table, we explain to them that in Kenya, in Africa, in Kubu, where I come from, the land is owned by the men. So we will sit down as their intermediaries and negotiate for the space that the women may be allowed by the men, by the patriarchy system, to allow them to grow. Then the buyers walk the journey of the cultural sensitivities and the behavioral change that we need corporate, especially in the coffee value chain. Because if they understand, then we will be able to give them a safe product, a traceable product, an ethically sourced product, and which is aligned to the regulatory requirements. We carry out a lot of trainings. which everyone is doing. But what is the pudding in our pie is the culturally sensitive conversations that we must first have with the men, the leadership, before then they hold the hand of the women. And I tell you, even if one man in a village supports you to promote the women, you have won. So we gender experts are not about excluding the men. We want to bring them with us. We want your support. We want you to give us the land. We will take care of the crops we grow plus the ones you grow. All right? A round of applause for that. And then when it comes to negotiating the contract, you sit around with the leaders, understand their anxieties, and they have all these horror stories about who came around and did what to them. So you document that and sit down with our buyers. So we usually have a very long negotiation process. And I explain to them, this is what happened to our farmers in 1945. None of us was born. We remember it's a horror story. And we need your commitment. We're not going to have this horror story. They tell us, for us, we need quality. Then I say, define quality. Define quality. Send us your inspectors who train our youth. I also look out what is the interest of the parent in this farm. They want to hand it over to their children. They've educated their children highly. I say, those inspectors, put our youth in there, teach them how to inspect quality. If you come to my village in Kobo, half the university graduates are inspectors in nuts and coffee and every other value chain. When you have that level of unity and understanding, you see, you can put it in one simple English word. What is it? Trust, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you can see the work that has gone in. A lot of business negotiation.
So it's a lot of work and it's a lot of commitment, from both sides to build that trust and to set up the systems to make it work. Let me shift back to you, to Devin. And in spite of all of that, there's still risk. And as associations, your role is also to help farmers to manage risks. Farmers and also buyers to manage risks. But let's specifically focus on risks of course, there's risk in fluctuating market prices, sometimes beyond the control of even the associations. But then there's also natural disasters, there's crop failures, and as associations, you work with farmers like WOFAC, for example. How do you help farmers? How do you support farmers? What intermediary role do you play in that, in terms of price determination, loss and damage of crops, etc.?
Thank you very much for that question. And it is tied to the trust and transparency. Because if an organization or a buyer has worked with the farmers and they have been transparent and they have won the trust of the farmers, it's easy for you to come in and say, within this certain times, the prices are uncertain because of XYZ, because a trust has been built. Unfortunately, and this, I know there are business people sitting in the room, some of this information is always hidden to the farmers. Because when times are good and the business is doing well, the farmer will always be in the dark. But when things are gone bad, that's when the farmer is disclosed to that the international market is collapsed. I don't know, this has happened. But before, they weren't even speaking. So trust and transparency is the foundation on which we can now start talking about how we can build when things are not going well. Having said that, what we do as an organization is, first of all, to establish the information ourselves and also make farmers to be part of the platforms that are there, the information transformations that is happening. And I would really want to applaud the many new initiatives that have been done on information platforms that are making information go up to the farmer. Information is power to making any decision. And us as an organization, what we are endeavoring to do even as now is to make sure that our farmers are connected not only to us, but to the government entities and to other institutions that are giving market information, from inputs to markets and also to the scenarios in the marketing areas, whether it's at national level or those ones who are exporting. So information, that's the key to making sure the farmer knows what is happening. Otherwise, they'll be blinded because, unfortunately, again, not many of the business entities are very transparent. So they'll always twist around when things are not good. But when things are okay, they don't even speak. So that is the area that we are really putting most of our efforts in, making sure that farmers can access information.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now let's shift gear to our last question for the panelists before we open it up for a couple of questions. And this is around the policy and regulatory environment. And you did hint at it, Ms. Gitonga. So obviously you work with government. We just had the presentation by ASNET here. The role of associations is also to interface between government and the members. So what are the policy gaps? Maybe you could just tell us that in half a minute. From your perspective, what can government do better? Whether it's from a policy angle or from a legal angle or, enforcement, what is that one thing for you?
I think one of the things that is hurting most investors is this issue of side selling. You've invested in a farmer, and I'm not saying it's the farmers who are seated here, but that's a reality. But then you find that at the end of the day, there's side selling. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, there's side selling. Really, which is a moral issue, greed issue, lack of ethics, and actually not following the law. So in that space, because now when we begin that, then it is well for many of us, we as farmers, we get dirty because of practice of a few people. Then on the other side, the investor is losing. Because remember, like Eva said, it's all tied back to the big market where the investor is actually buying this produce for. So what can be done? And I think that is what is the question. Number one, allow me to give an example. I worked in East Africa Community, Tanzania, where I lived. In Tanzania, when you look at the contract farming, because most of the farmers who get into contract farming are Kenyans, but you get to anywhere where there are those contract farming, mzee wa kijiji lazima ajue you are there. That is part of local administration. Nyumba kumi, here nyumba kumi does not work, but down there it's very strong. And the whole chain of command of administration is aware of the contract that you have gotten into between you, the investor, and the local, who is the farmer. That brings a lot of sanity. That brings a lot of behavior, good behavior. Now let's come back to our country, our dear country, Kenya. So what can we do? Because some of these things, yes, the laws are there, the agricultural crop production act is very clear. Yes, it is there. But to me, seriously speaking, I think it's a matter of moral. It's a matter of we as the farmers and the investors who are coming in, we sit down and we tell ourselves, we want to clean, we want to sanitize, we want to make this sector work for us for our own benefits. We really don't have to wait sometimes for the government to come and say, oh, now you have this, so it is this. Those rules and regulations are there. But we are serious investors. I love it when Eva says, this is business. It is true, it's serious business. So can we have even some ethic? Can we also have some kind of, we want to really run this as a serious aspect. leave alone the policies of the government. Because if a contract goes wrong, of course, in every contract, there's that says the law which will be applied here is either for Kenya, Tanzania, UK, or wherever. That is true. But we are talking about this is business. Let us be business people. Let us really not wait for the regulatories or the governments to come and govern us. Let us govern ourselves. Let us behave as serious business people. I'm a business person myself. I don't gamble with anyone who want to spoil my path that is going to make me make a few dollars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kenna. Thank you. From an angle of Kenna, what you do in terms of the gaps that we see in terms of policies, the enforcement, and I will echo the speaker from the government in the morning who was speaking on behalf of the PS, that really the area of enforcement. Fine, I do agree with my sister that it's about us having the integrity, the morals, but then again, the enforcement, the Tanzanian way. We've been to Tanzania in a conference, and the farmers, a lot of good stories were coming out. Tanzanians are so faithful when it comes to following the contracts. But as Kenyans, we always have those paka na panya. It's called a game. It's a game that we play that we don't really do things the right way. But then what can we do? Because the contract, if it's very simple, then it needs to be followed with the rights and obligations being ensured. So what we're doing with our farmers is, of course, ensuring that they understand that they have to follow what is in the contract. And even as much as they will try and misbehave, then the reason we have another intermediary before KNF, we have the cooperatives, that they are answerable to the cooperatives where they take their produce to. So that the buyer, when the buyer gets the produce, so the farmer is directly responsible to the cooperative. And we have the cooperative now overseeing the farmers. That becomes much, much easier. So maybe that is what the government should adopt. That if you deal with each individual farmer, it becomes very complex. One will be selling by the roadside, another one will be selling in the nearest market. That still becomes a problem. So it's about having another intermediary. And no wonder I just love the intermediary model, because even as a farm organization, we have the cooperatives oversighting for us, so that the farmers do not do the side selling. Before I hand over the microphone, I'll just add one point on risks. You did ask a question on risks. So the issue with the farmer is understanding the risks, the potential risks. And one of the main risks that has always been there is the environmental risk. What are we doing as stakeholders in the agriculture sector to ensure that the farmer understands what are the mitigation measures for the environmental risks? And one key one is linking them with crop insurance. Because if then they have crop insurance, they're able to mitigate the environment risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that addition. Half a minute, ladies. What gaps are there in policy and law?
Okay, thank you very much. I had three. I think two have already been covered. One of them was the environmental risk. We have borrowed our earth from our children, and so we need to hold it tenderly. The soils, the water towers, the forests, which are the lungs of the earth, the issues of carbon sequestration, the soil. I think these are things that we are morally obligated to train farmers because they own the land. The second thing is the issue of price fluctuations. This is market forces. There's nothing anybody can do if the prices of coffee decide to shoot up. Like right now, the lower grades are all almost competing with the premium grades. There's nothing you can do about it. There's one thing as intermediaries you can do. You can always encourage your farmers to diversify. So if today the prices are bad in the coffee sector, maybe we have a boom in the academia. Maybe the herbs are selling better. Maybe the milk is fetching better. So to manage the risk, both for yourself as a trader and for our farmers, let us diversify. Then the issue of cultural conversations, so that the women and the youth are involved. The wazays in the places where I come from, they hold on to the land until they are not here, and they leave people fighting. Let's have those conversations around succession. The men here, we don't want you to go, but when you go, don't leave us fighting. Let's have those conversations. The other conversation is for daughters-in-law. I'm married in a home that has quite a lot, and I have no voice, as empowered as I am. So I went back to my community and I negotiated space for the women who are married in the village, because they are the mothers of that homestead. They're the mothers of that village. It's a cultural and patriarchal conversation. The men cried, the women cried, the daughters cried. But in my village now, the women who are married in there are controlling the coffee industry because of my voice.
Well, thank
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think the question was what the government would do better. And I want also to echo what my other sisters have said. This conversation can only be regulated by the government, whether we like it or not. I happen to have worked a number of years back when we had districts, not counties. And in those days, any trader, anyone doing business with farmers was registered, or rather, the government knew, and more specifically, the Ministry of Agriculture, if they were coming to contract farmers in agricultural produce, was known. Not necessarily to be curtailed to do what they are doing, but so that the government knows who is doing what. If it's the macadamia, if it's the coffee, tea, everybody was known, including French beans. They knew which were the traders. That is a gap. As we sit here, there are so many who are doing businesses with farmers, and the government is not aware at that level. Number two, standardization of the contracts themselves. The farmers don't understand, because every buyer, every business entity comes with kind of their own modified contract. And the government see that there is standardization of the contracts, so that a farmer in County X and a farmer in County W, they are all looking at a similar contract. What I know about farmers, they always listen to each other. When a business Y comes to a certain county, the farmers there will call another farmer in another county where this business person was. And they will always know this one can be trusted, this one cannot be trusted. So if the contracts were similar, then it would be very easy. Before I drop the mic, my sister talked about side selling, and it's something that is very common. I also want to speak from a background where I grew when coffee was coffee, not before yes, now it is coming up again.
Yeah.
The side selling it emanates from the broken trust between the two. Either the buyer is not coming on time. You can imagine something as delicate as milk, for example. You're selling to a certain cooperative who is selling to a certain big company. And then the milk is not picked on time. What will the farmer do? Then this farmer also gives the milk, and a month later, the farmer is not paid. Who is funding this business? It is the poor farmer. So those are some of the things that needs to be tied up, so that even the side selling and the trust that is there is strengthened, so that each one is honoring their own end. Not forgetting, the farmer is holding the narrowest end of this business, and actually the most sharp. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, panelists. We've had it all, ladies and gentlemen. There are a lot of things that the intermediaries are having to deal with in terms of policy enforcement, looking at capacity building, looking at making farmers understand that this is a business, also the cultural aspects. There's a lot in that spectrum. I don't know if you have any one or two questions before we wind up this session. Anything that has not been touched on, please be very brief so that we manage time well.
Good morning. My name is Janet Mbuku. I'm a partial farmer from Makueni. And my question is towards the gaps in the policy. As farmers and as farmers will bear me witness, contracts tend to lean the buyer's side. And as much as the government has the upper hand in making and formulating these policies, believe that these institutions also can contribute in advocating for the farmers. So my question is, how are these institutions advocating for farmers in issues like pricing, in issues like the conditions in the contracts that mostly favor the buyers and press on the farmers harder? Thank you.
Let me just, thank you so much for that question. And it's going to be there's going to be a substantive discussion in, I think, this afternoon on the legal aspects of these contracts. So we may not get into, the details of how that is done unless there's a very short response to that. And I believe we'll have the intermediaries in that session as well, chiming in on to your question. But does anyone want to touch on it in a minute? Yes.
Thank you very much. Janet, I think what I can advise, because I come from associations where we have sector associations. Let me tell you, as a standalone, you can never be able to influence government policies. You need to come together, create one strong voice. Farmers who are doing, for example, you are in poultry, come together, identify the issues that you want to soldier on, go and do some policy advocacy and lobbying. That is what the government will understand. Trust me, my sister. You can even now say, Papa Sisi, poultry farmers from XYZ. One egg, we are going to sell it at that shillings. I'm telling you, the buyers will buy because that is you calling the shots in the sector. Thank you.
I'll add on that, Janet, maybe we have what we call commodity associations. In the morning, when our senator was speaking, they talked about National Potato Council of Kenya. So if you come together as farmers and form a commodity association, then that works very, very easy to be able to speak to the government. And I do agree with you. At some point, some of these contracts, of course, do favor the buyers. That one I'll surely agree with you. But I'll leave the session to the legal session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. One last question here, and then we'll wind it up.
My name is Jean Jiro, retired from agriculture sector after many years. I just wanted to follow up on the issue of what the government can do. And I wanted to say, first of all, I think, in my opinion, over the years, the focus has been too much on production side. I think the issue of markets is rarely addressed. Even the policies that are there for the market side of the agriculture are few. And I also wanted to refer to the informal contracts on the ground. And this is where we have farmers who produce, sell in the local market, or buy and sell in the local market. That is where most Kenyans get their food. Yet, I would say, as concerns markets, that's the most ignored, because when you look at the markets where we buy our vegetables and fruits, whether it's Meru, whether it's Kongowea, whether it's Kisumu or Gekomba here, they are all a mess. No ablution, no running water. I don't know why we've really ignored this sector so much, such that we have to go through that to buy what we have to eat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On that note, we end this session. Thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you to the audience. We take a break now. Let's give our panelists a round of applause.
Wow. A round of applause again for them. What an engagement. Very insightful, rich stream of information. And I had also our guest speaker wondering why, it's all women panel. Where is the gender sensitivity here? But I think also Eve spoke to it. She spoke about the patriarchy, and you understand why she said where they are with the men, sometimes there is fights. So maybe because of that sensitivity, that is why we had on a lighter note. Yeah, the all women panel, but haven't they done a great job? Haven't they done a great job? Give them a round of applause. And Mr. Kubok, you see, that's why it was very important for you also to just remain. And I want to thank you so very much for graciously consenting to be with us, because you had indicated that you had to leave for another crucial meeting, right? But you discover how crucial this meeting is as well. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us now to take a short break. I think we are running behind with about 10 minutes. So if we could just redeem this time as we take our healthy break, just outside, please make sure you make it snappy so that at least we can also have sufficient time when we come back to have more questions, to have more engagement, so that also we may be able to, get the knowledge, the expertise that our intellectual experts are here to give us, and also to share the experiences as well and enrich our farming, especially when it comes to contract farming. On that note, we take a short break.